Alright, welcome to my channel. This is Lock Chuck. What I'm working on today is an Abloy Exec disc detainer lock. Alright, I'll show you. Here's the key and the bitting. So a couple interesting things about this lock is it has what is called the disc steering system, which is this little setup here. And what it does is if the front of the lock is not rotated or is blocked, it prevents any of the discs behind it from being able to rotate. So they'll fit on it like so. So you can't rotate this disc until this is rotated. Then that allows these to be able to rotate. And the way I accomplish that with picking is I tension off of the very back disc, and it is a zero cut, if you will. So when I turn it, it allows it also rotates this at the same time. But the trick of it is once this is in there, let's see if it'll show it rotates to the correct position, which is there. But if you're not careful, you can overset this and it will block you from that. So as you'll see when I start picking, I'll talk about having to reset the disc steering system. And what I'm doing is I'm coming off between the disc and I'm actually hitting this here and rotating it back to its correct position. As long as I have tension on the bottom, it'll just rotate it back to its correct position, which kind of bumps up against that disc. So that's what I'm doing when I'm picking. So I just have to be mindful of that. Anytime I set something over probably like a 4 or 5 cut, I have to go back and reset it, because in those positions the picking tip is actually rotating this as well as the disc I'm on. All the discs only have one true gate. They all have some type of false gates. Some of them are not, except for this back one. This one, there's no need for it to have false gates because it has to rotate fully clockwise. So it's zero. It does have to. But all the other ones, they may be very subtle, but there are false gates. Some are more pronounced, like these, but then others are really fine, like this one, I believe. Yep, this one has really fine, it's almost more like serrations than it is gates. These are the key retention and key, kind of a key check. I believe I've always heard them called dolphins. There may be other terms, but once it is turned, it goes down into that dimple there and locks the key in. And if you put any other key if it doesn't have that dimple, it will not allow the discs to rotate, because in this they're housed in there and there's a dimple there and dimple there. If those dolphins are not allowed to go in, it won't allow it to rotate either. But I'll show some more of that at the end when I get it picked. But there's the sidebar, hockey stick style. Nothing special about the housing, standard 330 housing. But there you have it. That's the Abloy Exec. Let me get it back together and I'll show you the picking. Alright, got the lock up in the vise. The key is working. Lock back up. And first we're going to get the tensioner in and all the way to the back. And I'll go ahead and turn it all the way clockwise, and then I'm going to try to get the picking tip all the way in the bottom or back. So get the tip to go in all the way. All right, so we got it all the way in, and the tip tensioner is all the way turned clockwise, and the tip is all the way to the back. So let's see. There we go. So picking tip's able to move smooth between. So let's pick up the next disc. So I have to leave it up. All right. So I'm on the disc, and you can see the tip's not moving. So it's binding. So I'm gonna let up tension. Still binding pretty tight. Still pretty tight. Still pretty tight. Alright. Freed up a little bit, even with tension. It's pretty free right there, which I think is all the way. So now I gotta come off of that disc, go all the way and go back a little extra, reset the disc steering system, and grab the next disc. Okay. Next disc. One click, still a little tight. Two, still a little tight, and three. Three gives me a little bit of movement. So I'm gonna leave it there. Try to come off of it. Make sure I'm not moving it after I get off. And get the next disc. Alright, I'm on there now. One, still tight. Two, still tight. Alright, three's up all the way at that last position. So I'm going to go back, and since I moved it all the way, I need to make sure I counter rotate that disc steering system. Alright, I'm on the next disc. Make sure I rotated that back. Okay, binding, still binding. Still binding. Alright, got a little bit of wiggle in that. So I'm gonna go back. Try to get the next disc. Okay. Still binding. Make sure I'm on the disc. Okay. So I'm just resetting that. I was losing my binding, so I think I had pushed that disc steering system up, so I went off of them, went all the way back and pushed it back. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump to the next disc, and it's binding tight, letting off tension. Letting off tension again. Alright. Alright, that's moving pretty free. Let's go to the next disc. Alright, binding tight. Letting off. Alright. And we got an open. Oh my goodness. Alright, so let me see. I don't know if I can get my pick out with this one without locking it back. So the picking tip's out. Oh, alright. Alright, so what I'm gonna do, don't mess up my tip or anything, I'm gonna put it back and I'm gonna lock it back. I'm gonna pull my tip out. All right. So just leave that there. So the first thing we got to do is put the key in and take the grub screw out. Got to get that grub screw out first. There. Oh, there's a grub screw. Come here. It's just a little grub screw. So now I can lock it back up. Take a classic key. And I'm just going to take this nut off. Okay. All right. Let's see. Get this thing to come out in one shot. All right. The only thing left in there is the ball bearings and the shackle. So you can see that comes apart. All right. So we'll get the key out. Oh, there's the sidebar. Sidebar just did fall off. So let me get this out. There's the key. All right. So kind of before I take it all apart, what I want to show you, well, should I show you with my picking tip? So make sure it's in focus. So when I'm in, or when you go in and do this, my tension tip turns that back. But if you also notice, the front profile disc and the next disc, which is part of the disc steering system, also rotates. But if you have to go in and if anything requires I'm just going to get on one of them. If anything requires a full turn, if you notice that disc rotated more, which took it out of its gate. So whenever you're unpicking, is what I'm talking about returning the disc steering system, is I am going between discs and rotating backwards. And if you see that next disc, if I can get it to cooperate, it's hard to do. See, I'm turning with my picking tip backwards and it brought that steering disc back to its position it needs to be. So you have to be conscious anytime I'm picking anything to its extremes or close to the extremes, is to make sure I come off and return that disc steering system back into its correct position. So it's also got a gate in it. So let me get them pick out and we'll take these discs out and look at them individually as well. Okay. Try not to dump my discs everywhere. And all right, so let me get this spring off the bottom so I can set this down first. So the first disc, which is still on my pick from showing you that, is a profile disc. These are not notches for the sidebar. These are notches that actually connect it directly to the disc steering system. Next thing are these little dolphins, which are for the key retention. And if you don't put the correct key profile, let's see, the key has that little dimple cut in it. That's for these little dolphins. They check that, and if that dimple or whatever is not there, or if there's anything blocking it, it won't allow it to turn. So that's just kind of a spacer, and it also holds the sidebar in position. So this is the actual disc steering system. That is a special. So as you can kind of see here, this has some ridges that kind of help or prevent you from turning in certain directions. So that's why the picking tip has to be made in such a way so when it goes through, it limits. Let me see, make sure that focuses. It limits how much of that picking tip, how much it can actually rotate. So I'm very limited on the actual amount of motion that I can actually rotate. So that is one of the challenges with this type of Abloy is with that. So the next disc is standard. It's got a couple false gates, one true gate. I'm just going to stack these spacers as I take them off right here. Here's another one. A couple false gates before, one after. Do not believe this is mastered anywhere. So one true gate, bunch of false gates. Alright. Bunch of false gates. And one true. Okay. Alright, that one again, a bunch of false gates, almost like serrations on that one. Alright, again, only one true gate, bunch of false gates. Several false gates on that one. And this is the last disc, which is also the profile disc. I'm gonna set it right there. And this is just like a spacer. It helps hold the sidebar and actually applies a little bit of pressure, rotational pressure, because of the hockey stick shape. This actually fits down into it right there. So, and that gives you the space to allow that hockey stick to go under the first disc. So the first disc actually has kind of a profile for the key. So the key, see, has these cuts there and there. So when, let's see, it's like so. So when it goes in, it allows those cuts. There it is. For that key to go in. And also I have to make my tension with similar, as you can, if I can get it in the right position. Let's see there. So it kind of also has those cuts to allow it to go. And this only picks up on the first disc. So, all right, I'll give you a close-up of all the discs and the key together. And see, put all that there, and make sure I got all the pieces and parts. So, oh Lord, just dropped all the spacers. But anyway, that's where it's in focus. So there you go. There's a close look up at the disc. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 discs that are actually have gates in them. That does include the one under here. Yes, it. Oops, sorry. 1, 2, 7, 8, 8 discs that are active. That was a spacer, but wait a minute. Where? Oh, I thought there was an old. Yeah, I didn't take this disc off, but that disc is active and it has the one true gate. So there is 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I'll get it straight. So there is 9 active discs in this lock. So so this is the Abloy Exec. I'll give you another look at the tip. Okay, so it is a custom tip. I am using it in my new RWB handle, but it is a 1.5 millimeter ejector pin with I believe it had a 7 or either 6 millimeter head that was, let's see, so I'm trying to make sure it focuses. So it was ground to that shape there. The picking tip was a 2 millimeter tube, and I took, I can't remember if it was 23 or 15 thousandths filler gauge, silver soldered it on, and it was cut to that shape to grab onto those discs. So that way when it's picking, when I'm in there, I'm actually able to get onto those discs like so. I'm hooking this in focus for this. Let's see, let me see if I can tap it. See if it'll focus just on that. But that's the picking tip and how it works, and I'm able to manipulate that disc like so. Alright. Alrighty. Make sure I covered everything, but either way, thanks for watching. Alright. If you have any suggestions or anything, leave me a comment. Thank you.